This is the most important news right now from global politics. A crucial meeting with global implications. US President Donald Trump and Chinese President Xi Jinping are set to meet at the APEC summit in Gyeongju in South Korea shortly. The talks come amid a fragile trade truce and months of escalating tensions ahead of the meeting. President Trump sounded optimistic, saying, "I hope we are going to have a deal that's better than fighting, a great deal for both." The agenda includes trade tariffs, fentanyl controls, TikTok's US operations, and China's export curbs on rare earth minerals. The meeting, their first since 2019, is scheduled to begin at 7:30 a.m. IST. So we have breaking news coming in. Xi Jinping has departed China for South Korea ahead of Trump meeting. US President Donald Trump on his Truth Social post said that he's looking forward to his scheduled meeting with Chinese President Xi Jinping in Busan, South Korea. We're also given to understand that Donald Trump has landed in Busan. Of global consequences, US President Donald Trump is set to meet Chinese President Xi Jinping in Korea at 7:30 a.m. IST. Trump has softened his tone this time, saying he hopes for a great deal benefiting both nations. So we have CNN News 18 Siddhant Mishra joining us live right now. Siddhant, first things first, please tell us, is this meeting signaling a thaw in the US-China relations after years of tariff tensions?
Well, this meeting is very, very significant. In fact, it's not only significant for United States and China, but, in fact, Europe and countries in Asia perhaps will be watching the development very, very closely. Because, these two countries are the economic might. And in fact, after coming to power, perhaps the way President Trump has been trying to deal with China is very unusual. In fact, one day he threatens 100% tariff on China. The other day he pauses those tariffs. The challenge for President Trump is that he wants China to remove the export curb on the rare earth minerals, because the American companies, so that American companies can produce high-level chips. So that is what is on his agenda. In fact, if you see that he went to South Korea, he went to Japan, he was in Malaysia, all throughout his visit and his meetings with the leaders, perhaps he's signing the critical minerals agreement with these countries. So what's on his mind is critical mineral, because he wants to send this message to his people, the Americans, that he's doing something. Undoubtedly, China has become the market leader when it comes to critical mineral. More than 90% of world's critical mineral gets processed and refined by Chinese companies. And perhaps, since there has been an export control which has been put in place by China, so American companies are not getting the continued supply of critical minerals. So that's definitely going to be on the agenda. Now, what's going to be the bargaining chip? Now, the bargaining chip could be the high-level NVIDIA chips, which President Trump could offer to China in exchange for the critical minerals supply. So that is perhaps going to be the top agenda for President Trump. Other than this, the supply of soybean to China. China has been the 90% importer of soybean from United States. But ahead of this meeting, China reduced the imports. Perhaps those constituencies, which produce soybean, are the out and out Republican constituencies. So President Trump will definitely want China to buy more agriculture products, including soybean, from the United States. Now, Taiwan will definitely be coming up for the discussion. Perhaps many are saying that this time around President Xi is going to make China's position very, very clear, with regards to Taiwan, that the reunification of Taiwan is inevitable. So that is something which President Trump will be told by President Xi. And in fact, other than this, the trade is the most important, agenda for both the countries, because from the very beginning, the percentage of tariff which President Trump imposes on China, perhaps China imposes the same percentage of tariff on the United States. They have met several times in Madrid. In fact, there have been announcements made by President Trump that I'll be going after China, will impose tariff, etc., etc. But he couldn't do that. In fact, ahead of this meeting, there was a meeting which took place on the sidelines of the ASEAN summit in Kuala Lumpur, where the Chinese and the American leadership, Scott Bessent, met his Chinese counterpart, perhaps to work on some kind of a framework ahead of the leaders meet. So it would really be interesting to see that whether both countries are going to announce some kind of a framework for the trade deal, etc., etc. All we have right now is a social media post from President Trump, and in fact, he writes in the social media post that the G2 will be convening shortly. So now he is referring this particular meeting as G2. So which means that he is acknowledging that China is the second military and economic might after the United States. So a big endorsement and acknowledgement coming from President Trump for Chinese leadership. But that is how President Trump has been pleasing the world leaders, whether it's President Putin, President Xi, Prime Minister Modi. That is his way of writing things and saying things ahead of the meeting. So definitely he is positive, but also the point is that if you ask me, then it's going to be one of the most important meetings of President Trump in last 10 months, because so far he met President Putin. That was also very important, very unusual. But this meeting perhaps is being watched very, very closely by in fact all the countries, because a lot is riding on today's meeting.
Well, Siddhant, hold that thought. We have Ashok Sajjanar. He's a former Indian diplomat who served as the ambassador to Latvia, Sweden, and a lot of other countries, and a foreign policy analyst, joining us live right now on CNN News 18. Welcome to the show, Mr. Sajjanar. Thank you for joining us. Very good morning to you. So my first question to you is, how do you think this will impact allies, and allies like Japan, or most importantly India, are viewing this potential meeting between Trump and Xi Jinping?
Thank you very much for having me. Yes, the eyes of the whole world, in fact, have been riveted on this meeting. It's supposed to take place on Thursday. That's what President Trump has been mentioning. There have been not too many commentaries coming out of China, but Mr. Trump has been, if I can use that expression, quite desperate to get a economic deal with China, because he thought that he could use the instrumentality of tariff on China to pressurize, to coerce it in terms of importing more commodities and more items from the United States. That doesn't seem to have worked. It worked in his first term when he was able to get a very good deal out of China. That could not be implemented because of COVID. But right now, China has very many weapons in its own armor, particularly the rare earth minerals, the critical minerals, and it has imposed export restrictions on many of those, not only for the United States, but for the whole world. And that, of course, is having a huge adverse impact as far as the United States is concerned. So he has been talking, China has been non-committal, and in fact, the United States has been making concessions. China has been pocketing all those concessions, and let us see what happens. The two sides negotiators met in Kuala Lumpur, and Scott Bessent seems to have made this statement that both the sides have come to some sort of an agreement, and that is being put up to the leadership of the two countries. So we'll really have to wait and see. But the fact that Trump has tweeted that the G2 are going to meet, that is a very ominous sign, I would say, because it appears that he is willing to enter into an agreement with China over the heads of its allies. You mentioned about Japan, South Korea, and of course, even as far as India is concerned, because Japan, India, Australia, United States are members of Quad. Quad summit is to take place. It's not very likely it's going to take place this year. So we'll really have to wait and look at the fine print of any agreement that comes out. But I have I'll not say a sinking feeling, but I have, some premonition that possibly Mr. Trump is going to give in much more than he'll be able to get, exactly what he did in Alaska when he met Putin some months ago.
Right. Ambassador, it is very important to understand right now, could Trump's softer tone mark a new phase in his Asia policy?
Well, let me put it this way, that he was, flexing his muscles when he came in right at the beginning as far as China is concerned. You would recall, your viewers and listeners would recall, he had said, I'm going to impose 145%, 245% tariffs on Chinese imports. But when China unleashed its own control over the rare earths and critical minerals, because China has 70% ownership and more than 90% processing of these critical minerals, and they are very used for high-tech industries, medicine, defense, semiconductors, etc. Then Trump was forced to withdraw, and then so far he's been having 30% tax on tariffs on China. He said he'll impose 100% more from 1st November, but that has also been deferred. That is not being implemented. So I think Trump finds himself on the back foot, and I think we will be able to see some sort of an agreement because, as I said, he appears to be desperate to get some sort of an economic trade deal with China.
Right. Ambassador Ashok Sajjanar, thank you so much for joining us and for sharing all that information with us. Siddhant, back to you. So how might this summit, you think, affect U.S. relations with Taiwan and South China Sea issue? Siddhant, are you still with us?
As far as President Trump is concerned, in fact, from the very beginning, he has never, he has never spoken about his policies on Taiwan at a stretch. In fact, the other day also he said that that Taiwan is Taiwan. We will be having discussion on Taiwan, etc., etc. So, honestly, nobody knows that what's going to be President Trump's, stand, his policy for Taiwan. Now, when it was President Biden at that point in time, when there used to be, disturbance in the South China Sea, or perhaps Chinese forces doing some kind of a military drill, exercise, etc. At that point in time, there used to be a sharp statement coming from the United States. In fact, during President Biden's tenure, there were high-level visits from the United States to Taiwan. Nancy Pelosi visited Taiwan. So at that time, there was a clarity when it comes to the issue of Taiwan. There was a support to Taiwan. But when it comes to President Trump, his personal policy. There is an existing U.S. government policy for Taiwan, but what's going to be, what are his views on Taiwan? Perhaps is still unclear, and many experts say that this meeting, the kind of the way China has imposed the control, the export controls, etc. President Trump is under immense pressure. He is not holding cards, and he's not in a state to perhaps state United States policy for Taiwan, etc. All he wants is the supply of the critical minerals. In exchange for that, he's going to offer high quality chips to China. Then the 20% additional tariff for the fentanyl, that will definitely be discussed. Trump wants China to buy more and more agriculture products, including soya beans. So these are going to be his priority area in today's meeting. So many experts are saying that there's a high possibility that President Xi could be conveying to President Trump about his position, China's position on Taiwan, and how it is inevitable the reunification will be taking place. So right now, if you ask me, then China definitely has an upper hand over the United States when it comes to the issue of Taiwan.
Siddhant, hold that thought. We have another piece of information coming in. Breaking news. So ahead of Trump and Xi Jinping's meeting, the US president has announced that he has instructed the Department of Defense to begin testing nuclear weapons immediately in response to testing by rival countries, including China and Russia. President Trump has announced that the US will immediately begin testing nuclear weapons because of other countries' testing programs. So, Siddhant, back to you. How do you view the situation? Amid the meeting, he has asked people back in the US to start testing nuclear weapons.
Well, I am, as far as this particular post is concerned, now US President writes that United States has more nuclear weapons than any other country. This was accomplished, including a complete update and renovation of existing weapons during my first term. Because of the tremendous destructive power, I hated to do it, but has no choice. Russia is second and China is distant third. But will even within 5 years, because of other countries' testing program, I have instructed the Department of War to start testing our nuclear weapons on an equal basis. That process will begin immediately. Thank you for your attention. So this could be in response to Russia test firing the nuclear warheads about a week back, and also this could also be to remind China that they may have become the military and economic might, but when it comes to nuclear warheads, they are still on number 3. It's United States which dominates this game.
Right, so that talking particularly about Russia's Poseidon nuclear-powered autonomous torpedo, which they call was a huge success. What makes the Poseidon test strategically significant for Russia, do you think? And especially just before the meeting?
Well, look, the talks have collapsed between United States and Russia. In fact, it's quite visible. There have been no talks. In fact, Sergei Lavrov was expected to meet Marco Rubio. That meet could not take place. So in fact, President Putin the other day said that United States is escalating and tensions are escalating. So there would be these kinds of test firing, military drills, etc., etc., and that is expected. And perhaps, as I said, that this particular conflict could be coming for a discussion today in Busan as well, because President Trump has been saying it from a long time that he wants President Xi to help him solving the conflict in Europe. So he definitely will be seeking President Xi's help to send right signals to President Putin, and he wants President Xi to help him in ending this war. So that's definitely be also be going to be the top priority for the U.S. president.
Hold that thought. We have KP Fabian joining us live right now on CNN News 18. Viewers, KP Fabian is a former ambassador who served in Sri Lanka, Iran, Italy, Ethiopia, Austria. Welcome to the show, Ambassador.
Good morning.
Good morning. So my question is, how might this Russian tests of Poseidon impact, NATO's defense posture in Eastern Europe?
Yeah, I think we have to take note of a couple of facts. One is that as far as Ukraine is concerned, Russia has a local military advantage. As we know, NATO's defense expenditure is, you can calculate how many times that of Russia. NATO's GDP is how many times bigger than Russia. But all that doesn't matter. Russia has a local military advantage. That's point number one. Point number two is that I heard about nuclear weapons, the numbers and all that. Frankly, between you and me, the numbers don't matter. Once you start it, you can destroy the whole world without the 5,000 and odd, which America has, and Russia has a few more. You don't need all that. So that's not the point. The point is that if you look at the triangle, Russia, China, US, in Euclidean geometry, two sides together are always longer than the third side. So Russia and China together are stronger, longer than the United States. And the United States has been unwise in following a policy for the last so many years in bringing Russia and China together. So that is where. And I also heard about Trump trying to tell Xi Jinping that Xi Jinping should sort of tell Russia to stop the war. No, Trump may tell him, but nothing is going to happen. Xi Jinping will say that we are against the war, we are not giving any military help, and that is that. And that if the war is continuing, it's because peace talks are not progressing. So I think we have to be realistic. But the most important thing about the Xi Jinping-Trump meeting is that Xi Jinping and Trump have equally good cards. Mostly when you talk to America, America has the better cards. But here, it's more or less equal. Let's see.
Ambassador, like you mentioned that America holds the upper hand right now during this meeting. How do you think global markets will respond if Trump and Xi announce some sort of tariff agreement, whether limited or not limited?
It is most likely that they will come to a deal on trade matters because Trump is keen on it and Xi Jinping also is keen. But Xi Jinping is a smarter player. So right. The final result will be slightly to his advantage. But Trump is badly in need of, because, of the rare earths and other matters.
Semiconductor export, yes.
Yeah, semiconductor is the other way around. That is America to China. But rare earths is, from China to America. Okay?
Yes, right. So, do you think could this uneasing of US-China tensions reshape Asia's trade architecture?
Certainly, because let's look at the big picture. The Senate has already passed a resolution that Trump's raising tariffs against Brazil was wrong. And also, the president of Brazil and Trump met in Malaysia. So a thaw has already started. And he will settle with, Trump will settle with China trade-wise. And then the only unsettled matter is with India. And that is not to our advantage because that gives Trump an advantage. Okay, I have been reasonable and settled with everyone else. Now, why don't you settle with me on my terms?
Ambassador, I think it's very important to understand what are the risks if this meeting fails or produces vague commitments like the Alaska summit happened. Red carpets were rolled and so much happened, but then nothing concrete came out of it. What if this also ends up being something like that?
Let me put it this way. Both sides here are keen on a settlement. In Alaska, Trump was keen on having a settlement so that he can get the Nobel Peace Prize. Putin was agreeable, but he said that the root causes have to be discussed first. It's not a question of just agreeing to a ceasefire. And Trump actually bought that. You see, but then the Europeans started working, and they made sure that nothing concrete will come out of Alaska. But here, I don't think the Europeans or any other powers are involved. And if Trump and Xi Jinping agree, nothing can stand in the way.
Yes. Ambassador, hold the thought and we'll go back to our reporter Siddhant, CNN News 18's Siddhant Mishra. So, do you think Trump's nuclear testing order is a deliberate signal to strengthen his bargaining position with China?
Well, look, we really don't know why these orders are coming ahead of his meeting with President Xi, but definitely there are two messages which United States would like to send out. One, President Trump has said that G2 meeting will be convening. Perhaps it's in a way an acknowledgement of the fact that China is equal to the United States. But again, that is President Trump's way of praising the other country, their leadership, etc., etc. And the second is, ordering to test the nuclear warhead. So definitely, it's also a message that China may say that they are the economic might. China may say that they process 90% of the critical minerals worldwide. China may say that they are the military might. But the fact is, when it comes to the nuclear warhead, the United States is still leading, is still dominating. Perhaps look at it. These particular orders coming from President Trump ahead of meeting with President Xi. Now, you don't know because President Trump does not, function the way traditional diplomacy functions. It's a Trumpian style of diplomacy. So perhaps maybe in few hours from now, we would get to know more about why such orders were given ahead of the meeting.
Right, Siddhant, like you mentioned that he doesn't exactly follow a traditional presidential method of dealing with things. So do you think the timing on the eve of Trump-Xi Jinping summit reshaping the agenda from economic cooperation, this nuclear testing could reshape the agenda?
No, I don't think, because I cannot relate directly to this meeting because, I personally, what I have been hearing, reading, and after talking to people, that President Trump is under immense pressure when it comes to getting trade deal, finalized with China, and especially what's going to really dominate the agenda is going to be the critical minerals, because President Trump, there's a lot of pressure from the US companies on him to get the supply back from China. And in exchange for that, he could likely to offer the Blackwell high quality NVIDIA chips to China because, there was the export control on those chips, and China was, at that point in time, reacted to that. And it's the best quality chips that NVIDIA produces. So the NVIDIA chips could be his bargaining chip with China. So the focus would be on critical minerals in exchange for the high quality chips. The focus will definitely be on finalizing the trade deal. The focus will definitely be on China purchasing more agriculture products from the United States. So, right now it looks like these three, will be the talking points and perhaps the focus area for the President Trump, because remember he back in United States also he's under immense pressure. On a daily basis he has to justify his tariff policy. On a daily basis he has to make a public statement that I stopped war. It is all because of trade, all because of tariff. I brokered mediation because of tariff, etc., etc. So definitely, when it comes to China, the focus would be to get a trade deal finalized. So that is exactly that is something which President Trump wants desperately at this point in time.
Right. So, Ambassador, going back to you, Ambassador Fabian, how do you think this meeting is being viewed back home, both in China and in the US? Interestingly, last year when the debate happened between Kamala Harris and Donald Trump, Harris very famously told him that Putin is always going to hold the upper hand in the conflict because he knows how to boost your ego very well. And that happened because they had the Alaska summit and so many telephonic conversations, that nothing materialistic, nothing concrete came out of that meeting, and all the telephonic conversations that has happened so far, even though Trump had promised during his campaigns that he will end the conflict within a day when he comes back to White House. But I think it's been 10, 11 months now, nothing concrete has happened yet. Now, if this China summit, meeting in Korea happens to become successful, how will it be viewed back home by the Dems and also in China?
It's like this, some senators and representatives in the United States belonging to Republican Party and the other Democratic Party have already stated that China should not get NVIDIA chips, semiconductor chips. Trump should not agree to it, but I don't think he has a choice. Trump will find it very difficult if it will be a big blow for him if the trade part of the talks doesn't succeed. So that will succeed. And Xi Jinping also needs it. And don't forget, the previous speaker mentioned about agricultural products. Basically, it is soybean. China is a great big importer of soybean, and they are not doing it, importing. And the soybean is cultivated in that part of the United States where the Republican Party is strong. So Trump is really vulnerable. So the trade part will go through. As regards Taiwan, Xi Jinping will tell Trump, listen, it is our business, none of your business. And he will make it very clear. As regards Ukraine, I don't think there will be any sort of progress on that. But China will respond, listen, we have been always for peace. We are not sending any military material. And it is for you to work it out. And we shall be glad to help you diplomatically. And that is that.
Right. Trump is vulnerable. That is probably the top headline for the day today. Thank you, Ambassador. Thank you so much for sharing all that input with us. Thank you, Siddhant, for joining us for all the information.